I get it.
I'll be right back. I don't know what the fuck people are pounding walls for.
But going back, I was very bleak. I was not awake, and no one tagged me for the rafting. I would have woken up. I would have woken up. Damn it! It's not the same when you see it.
Do you sleep that lightly?
Yeah. Oh hell yes. I sleep terribly lightly. The only time I ever sleep through anything is through an alarm for some reason. But everything else, the slightest noise will wake me up. Especially if I woke up and it was like ding ding, because you never know what's going on. I don't know if my parents are okay, and then I would have seen they're rafting. Oh my god!
It looked like it only happened for like a split second.
Oh, you know what? It still counts. It still counts because you know what is intentional, and the fact that oh yes, Taz has tried to do that before, and she stuck out her hand like fully, like not even just a little. Fully stuck out of her hand as Joey was floating by, but Joey had his pacifier in his mouth. He did it, turn around, and then pushed himself off the rock with his flippers, and he was like, not happening. So I was like, come on!
She put her flipper on his face and like shoved him away.
It's like her face. I could almost see like she was probably like, what just happened? That was.
Are you live already?
Yes.
JJ? Okay.
Hello, Tessa. I'm live. We're busy talking about Joey's.
We're busy. We're very busy.
Yeah. For once, I'm the one that's sort of ready.
I know. You know what? And it's not. I have like zero excuse. I was literally just lying in bed. Like, that's what I was doing. Oh my god. So, yeah, I have zero excuse. So sorry.
Well,
I'm live now, though.
Me.
By the way,
at least it's not me.
Yeah.
For once.
Your sound still has a chance to fail, though.
Yes.
So we'll wait for it.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
I can be happy being the early one today.
You've been up. You started streaming like early this morning. Did you not?
Like 1 a.m. your time, yeah.
Yeah. That is early in the morning. Yes.
I actually went to bed though and got up early for today.
Can't stop watching this goddamn clip. And just to let everyone know, no, we're not cooking today because I'm involved. And unless you want to see me cut up a pineapple badly.
We should cook. That would be fun.
Really? But then you'd need to teach
actually,
me.
We could do like what if we did like a co-stream and we tried to cook the same thing?
Oh, okay. That
could be kind of fun.
Do you guys want to see that? I'll probably mess up. I don't even have coat hangers for my noodles.
Well, I mean, we can probably deal without the coat hangers for your noodles.
Gonna have to use the good old fashioned stuff. I was telling my brother because sometimes you see. Sorry, we're digressing before we start. He was talking about how like Jamie Oliver says you can make this at home, and then he pulls out like weird ingredients that you'd never find in a normal store, like an Indonesian purple banana or a special spice known as beryllium. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a cooking show on how to make 2-minute noodles.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out. My chat says that I am loud and JJ is quiet here.
Oh wow. Okay. So
okay. How's that? Is that better?
How's the audio?
JJ never gets the opportunity to turn up his sound.
Never. And I'm making a very dangerous move of trying to move my microphone. Can everyone hear me? Can we do a sound check on YouTube? YouTube. Cat my singing.
Sound off.
Sound.
That's better? Okay. I think it's because I did the cooking stream yesterday. I changed everything around. So then I should have not lied in bed for an extra hour this morning. But it's okay. We're here now.
Thanks to those that have paused school to apparently be here to watch. Yes, we can hear you. For once! Yes!
Bowl
success! Alright. So for those who don't know, we are continuing last week's show and we're going to be talking about ferrets. And of course that's the most fun thing you can ever talk about besides otters. Unless you're KP, then you talk about walruses.
Yeah, they're like little like pet land otters. Yeah.
There we go, look at them. Oh my gosh. They are. They're very tiny little otters that you can actually, you can manage because they can fit inside inside anything.
Yeah. Inside anything. Yeah, that's part of the problem with them.
I was going to ask, are ferrets the ones that they can squeeze themselves through very tiny holes? Or am I getting that confused with raccoons?
No, I think originally it's actually a lot of rodents can do that. Like basically anything that their head is big enough to get through, they can squeeze the rest of their bodies. But ferrets are very similar in that way. Like they're kind of just like very malleable slinkies that can pretty much fit into anything. Their head is kind of like obviously that's a hard structure, but if that can get through, then everything can get through.
I like the little hops. It's like they always look like they're doing something suspicious. I'm going to sneak over here, and then I'm going to sneak over there. Okay. So if you want to post your questions, please post them on all the channels, and you can also post it on YouTube. But Reiha had some questions, I think, from last week that we still need to get through.
We still have quite a bit.
Yeah, so we're going to try to get through as many of those questions as possible. If we see there's a lot of questions come here, oh my god, imagine if we had to do part 3 of ferrets, then that's just crazy. But let's go on to the question, Reiha.
Yeah, our first question today is, why do they have such short lifespans? And is it size related?
That's sad. Uh-oh.
I was muted. Sorry. I'm here. I'm still dealing with like some stream issues, but so in general, life expectancy is very much associated with the size of the animal. I mean, like you can see that even when you look at other species. Obviously blue whales can like live forever, and like over 100 years, and elephants too have very long life expectancies. So yeah, they definitely have pretty short life expectancies. But I think for their size, like 8 years is generally considered average, and that's not really too bad when you think about or when I think about like the life expectancy of a small animal like that. I mean, like, I don't know, Reiha, how long do guinea pigs live?
Guinea pigs are average between 6 to 8 years, but some people say 3 to 6. So in that general area.
Yeah, that 3 to 6 is the people that got guinea pigs for no reason.
Yeah, the ones that are like, then we put them in the outside where they can live forever. So obviously I wish they lived forever. But expectancy, I think. But yeah, I mean, of course, we always wish our pets would live forever.
Okay, we've actually answered that question last time. Someone was asking about bathing ferrets. If I recall, that's not the best idea to get ferrets exceptionally wet.
So we did talk a little bit about it last time, but I'll just like briefly kind of brush up on it. Is that yes, essentially they don't really need like frequent baths. So doing if they get dirty, just a like water wash is usually good enough for them. Like you don't really want to be washing off all of their natural oils on their bodies, because that can actually cause them to have more of an odor than they did before, sort of counterintuitively. So that's the reason behind not bathing them super often. Actually, I wish I had a video. I'll have to. They're also really funny when they get wet. They I don't know. They like kind of have total meltdowns when they get wet. So
like, what is this?
they just completely freak out. Yeah, they try to run away from themselves. Like it's very funny. But yeah, so it's typically not necessary to bathe them unless they've gotten into something, which is possible. That does happen too.
If I remember, I was actually just saying it. I think it was chinchillas that bath in sand. That's
in the dust, yeah. Yes. Like take little dust baths. So that's chinchillas that do that, and like ferrets will clean themselves. They clean themselves very, very well. Like I think there is a grooming video at some point here, and the ferrets are. I gotta take that plastic bag away from them actually, because it's gonna be very very loud. But yeah, so they are. Chinchillas will do like the dust bath thing, and ferrets will groom themselves, just like kind of like licking their paws, and they'll groom each other too. So they typically don't really need baths. Yeah.
Okay. Now we know they don't need baths. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it cuts down on the maintenance.
Yes. And the weird thing that you actually like, the more you bath them, the more they smell, which is totally against the laws of science.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
No.
but it really does make a difference for them. So.
Okay. Reiha, you got the next question for us.
Yep, next up, our question is, do they spray urine for marking like cats do?
Oh, no. Thankfully. They do not. They don't really mark a lot of it. They don't really mark anything. Yeah, so it's different than that of a cat. But if you do have one that has anal scent glands, they can actually spray those, which is I think why people often remove them. But they typically don't do that unless they're very very scared. Like it's kind of a defense mechanism, like almost like a skunk, to kind of get away from things. So, so yeah, you don't have to worry about spraying of urine, which is really nice. But potty training, like we talked about a little bit about last time, is a little bit more difficult than potty training a cat.
Yes. I can imagine.
Yeah.
There's a lot more energy happening there. Oh my gosh, the little massages.
They're very social, like, and they do tend to love neck rubs. Fisher, one of my current ferrets, loves neck rubs too, so they all have different personalities.
Yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and obviously, just to recap, we're continuing from last time. There are some places that are illegal to get ferrets. But we just quickly recap that if you're going to invest in any animal, especially ferrets, do your research beforehand. Don't make an impulse buy. They're not just toys you play with.
Well, even even dogs, certain dog
Yes.
breeds and stuff, like they're very, and cats too. Like, yeah, you should just definitely have a lot of knowledge about animals before you're gonna take care of them.
Bulldogs is one. I learned that a few days ago because they apparently develop nasal issues. You got to do your
Yeah.
research. Well, that doesn't. That completely makes sense, actually.
Yeah. Any of they call it brachiocephalic, which is the smush-faced dogs.
Yes.
They have breathing issues for sure.
Oh, shame. Okay, we move on to the next question. But just to remind people on YouTube watching as well, you can ask your questions here if you need something.
Sorry. My guinea pig's table flipped something in their cage, and I was like, oh, what the hell was that? Our next question is, how long did it take to litter box train them?
It's almost like it's never over. So, and it really depends on the animal. So, like in our case, like Mackie is really good. I would say he's probably like about 95% or so. But even like yesterday, he had an accident. So it's you're kind of just always working on it. So they will understand that they get a treat for going in the litter box. But it's definitely like if they're really really excited and they're playing a lot, they might not have time to make it there. It's a little bit like like kids, I think.
Yes.
Like they're playing. It's like having toddlers that are still in diapers. They're playing and then they can't quite make it there, and stuff like that can happen. So kind of your work is never really done, but typically they will sort things out very very quickly. I mean, they're very smart, and especially if you have like food motivated animals, and it also depends on how much you dedicate to it. Like if you're very vigilant and like you're really taking care and know what you're doing, you can get this done very very quickly. But if you're maybe not paying attention all the time and stuff like that, you can it might take a little bit longer. So I think in general that's true with training across the map for animals. It has a lot more to do with how much time you can invest in it, and how much energy you put into the animal rather than the animal. The animals have like unlimited capacity to learn, but yeah, I'd say you're doing pretty darn well if you can, like, within a few months, if you've got ferrets that are using litter boxes across the house in different rooms. It also depends on the capacity with which you have them in. You know, if they primarily live in a cage, they should probably have an easier time with that. But if you're like mine, where they just exist throughout the house, it's a little bit more difficult because they've got multiple rooms and multiple different litter boxes and stuff like that. So
Okay, we can move into the next question.
Yeah, our next question right here, it's you have mentioned that they're very social, but if you do get ferrets, should they be in groups?
yeah, so I in general always recommend having at least 2, and you will have some people who say that that it's not necessary. Just for me, in my personal opinion, I pretty much think it is necessary. You cannot spend as much time with them as another ferret would, which would be like literally all day.
Yes.
And they like to snuggle with each other. They just behave completely differently with each other than they do with a human, and I find that it is always better to have at least 2 of these guys, and it also makes your life a lot easier. Owning a ferret that is a solitary ferret requires so much of your attention, so much of your attention. Whereas if you if you have a buddy for it, then that's like a built-in little playmate. It's like it's like an interactive little toy that your ferrets have are in each other. So yeah, I've heard instances of people saying that they have a non-sociable ferret, and I think that mostly that's just a lack of working on it with like another animal. Like Mackie, like I was saying last week, really didn't get along with the other ferrets to start with these 2 boys, and now he totally loves them, and they snuggle all the time and they play together, and he's very excited about having them together. But it took us a good couple months before we were comfortable even leaving them alone together, because Mac was very, very mean to them. So yeah, I mean, I think you have to get over like that initial hump, and they have to work out their own stuff to a certain degree too. So but yeah, in general, I would say you've got to prepare as an investment that you're gonna need more than 1 ferret.
I think that's the same rule with siblings, with humans. You don't want to look after your child. Just have another one. They'll play together. They happen to be
Well, I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, I know. One of the questions that popped up, actually, I didn't even covered it, is, okay, so we're talking about ferrets in the wild and that. What would generally be their main diet? We know they're carnivorous, but what?
Yeah, so they're generally going to prey on animals like rodents, typically. So things like rabbits. The European polecat is like primarily used as like a hunting animal for rabbits. And you'll also see, like, I mean, yeah, basically any small rodent that they can catch, mice and stuff like that, but they can eat things that are quite a bit bigger than they are. And like the eggs of other animals too, like if they could get access to like a nest or somewhere, they will eat eggs and stuff like that. But yeah, and I'm sure that they're not above scavenging either. So if something, like something plops out of the sky, they'll probably take advantage of that. And they're hoarders too, so they'll, if they kill a rabbit, they're gonna hide it and keep it for themselves, and that's probably like weeks worth of food for them, because they are actually smaller than rabbits. So but yeah, primarily like small rodents is what ferrets will eat.
And what generally do you feed them at home? Because I remember looking up the ferret, and I always had to give it raw chicken. Like that's and
Yeah,
and
you
dried
can.
worms.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, you can feed them insects.
Mealworms.
That is just a protein. So we've chosen a kibble diet for our ferrets. So they eat a very high quality, well, two mixed kibbles. So one is like a duck, like a high protein duck kibble, and the other one is like made for cats and kittens. And again, it just has like an enormously high amount of protein and animal fats in it. But you can feed them raw diets, and in general, that probably is better for them, or like freeze-dried raw, stuff like that. All of our treats are, I don't have any around, but all of our treats are freeze-dried raw treats for them. But the only thing about feeding a raw diet is that you have to get certain percentages of things. Like they need a certain percentage of like muscle meat, of organ meat, of even some like bones in some cases to kind of like chew on, and then it can't be just chicken. You know, they're going to need a variety of different kinds of protein. So it's definitely like a cool diet, and there's like lots of groups on specifically on raw feeding these animals, but it does take an enormous amount of thought to put into in like planning the diet, and you have to do like meal prep. The problem that I have with it, and the reason that we went with kibble, is that ferrets, like I mentioned a little bit, like to hide their food.
Yeah.
And I do not need bits of raw like meat throughout my house hiding. So a lot of people will like have a specific feeding area where they are only allowed to eat. Kibble is just a little bit lower maintenance in general, because you can just give them kibble. They can have access to it 24/7, and you have to have specific feeding times if you're going to do the raw diet. But
Yes.
but it is an option for people.
Yeah, the chicken thing was definitely a timed thing and was in the cage because if anyone knows the smell of rotten meat and when you can't find it,
No, yeah. In your house. No,
yeah,
thank you.
where is that?
Ew.
Yummy. Okay, moving on to the next question.
Our next question is, where do ferrets natively live in the wild?
Oh, that's
so
a good question.
Ferrets are descended. So ferrets are essentially the domesticated version of the European polecat. So primarily in Europe, but there are other, ferrets. I think Reiha, you looked it up, didn't you?
Yeah. So Europe, North and Western Asia, Northern Africa, and black-footed ferrets are found in North America.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have black-footed ferrets in North America, but the ferrets that you would get, the domesticated ferret is descended originally from European polecats. So that's where they're sort of natively found. But again, these guys are like domesticated. It'd be kind of the same thing as being like, where do you find the pug out in the wild? There essentially isn't really a ferret anymore, or not a domesticated ferret, like just existing out in the wild. But their ancestors are the European polecat.
Which, by the way, I think someone was very lazy when they named that animal. We go back to the naming animal things. Looks like a cat, very long, polecat.
Yeah, it's a polecat.
It really is. If no one knows, take a Google after this. Polecats are amazing creatures. They really are. That was lazy naming. So far, thanks to the chat for everyone giving feedback. We have a lot of ferret people here today. That's nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we got some people who've mentioned that they actually feed the animals raw combinations, and they do go hunting for it. And we have someone else who had four otters. Same family. 4 ferrets at the same time. 4.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Evil Nav, I don't think that they're here right now, but
Yes.
she has, I think, like
3 or something like that, or more.
I think she has 4, at least 4. But yeah, I mean, I've seen people own lots of different ferrets at the same time. I just for me, there's a fine line between yes, it's less work to have 2 of them, but then it starts to be exponentially more work after that. So it's kind of one of those things. But a lot of people have different setups too, like outdoor setups and stuff like that, and that makes for easier for like raw feeding and stuff when you've got outdoor areas. And so yeah, I mean, like people are really passionate about ferrets. Ferret owners are special.
Definitely forming a fiesta of ferrets. We can move into the next question there.
Our next question is, what is the strength of their bite?
Ooh.
So I don't actually know the exact like numbers or anything like that, or if there's a comparable animal. I'm sure Reiha has Googled it. But I know that it hurts.
And funny enough, we're seeing the bite right now. We're actually seeing as you're talking about it, seeing the bites on YouTube side. So
yeah, but this is a little bit more of a play. Bite. Sorry, Reiha.
According to the Google, their bite force is approximately 400 psi.
But like, what does that even mean? I'm like not good with that. Like, what's like a dog's? I don't know if anybody in chat knows. What's 400 psi? I know it's like pounds per square inch, but what does it mean?
Yeah, it's like what is 400 like a big squash, little squash?
Yeah.
Okay, so oh shoot.
Well, yeah, I'm also doing a bit of research here. So dogs is around about 250 psi.
Oh, okay.
My God, ferrets, calm down.
Yeah.
Ferrets. The reason why, though, it was in that PBS video that I found, and it's because of the structure of their skull and the fact of how the muscles run alongside of it. That their bite force is a lot stronger. But amazingly enough, stouts have the strongest bite.
Stoats, okay.
Stout, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're just like, you're still caught up on National Beer Day, and you're like,
yeah, probably.
Stout. Wait.
So yeah, and I imagine the reason for this was probably because like wolves and stuff like that, where dogs are descended from, would like kill things by like bringing it down, like chasing it down for a long period of time, and then just like doing the throat bite, which doesn't really require as much force as what like a stoat or a polecat. When they go to kill an animal, they actually bite the back of the neck. They go for breaking the neck. So that's probably why they have to have such a strong bite. But yeah, I've only really been like actually bitten by a ferret, and that was Fisher, just a handful of times. And again, he had like some behavioral issues, mainly that he was very food aggressive when we first got him. So we've been working through some of that stuff. But he did bite me a couple times and broke the skin, which has only happened to me, like I said, just like a couple times in my life, a time of owning ferrets. Typically, they're like doing like little play bites, just like a dog would, just little like play nibbles in it. It's not the real bite. But the real bite, yeah, definitely passes the ouch test for sure.
I think you would have definitely. And I think that comes with territory when you're owning a pet, that you got to know that every once in a while you're gonna get something happen.
Yeah, I mean, and it's important to watch out for it, and it's also important to know, like, I don't know, that the animal's telling you something. Like, I always say that if something like that happens, even like, in my day job as a marine mammal trainer, that is the trainer's fault always. The animal gives you signs. Like, there were signs that was going to happen with Fisher when he bit me. Like I was working through some things, and I had reason to know that he might bite me. So there's never, it's never the animal's fault. The animal needs something, or the animal is is telling you something with the behavior of the animal. So yeah, it's not their fault. It's just who they are, and then there's things that we can do as people to help kind of avoid that, or like mitigate the risks of biting, and so then that's when we worked through a lot of his stuff, and he hasn't bitten anybody in a really long time. So
oh, that's good. It means he got over it. Is that not the same concept? No, I was gonna say if ferrets are running around chewing at things that they shouldn't be chewing, if that's not them actually being frustrated or something
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely their behavior is telling you something, and it's up to us to figure out why they're doing that thing, and what we can do to potentially fix it. So, yeah.
Sorry, sidetrack. One of the questions asked is, what is KP eating? It looks
What
delicious.
are you eating? Yeah, it was. So Double made me a like a breakfast burrito kind of thing. So it had like scrambled eggs and some avocado. And
I was about to say, I saw the
some
avocado. Yeah.
cilantro and like all that good stuff. Yeah, because I rolled out of bed like 10 minutes before we were supposed to start doing this because I was just having a very lazy morning. So I'm not really super prepared. That's what's happening. That's what's happening today.
So you're just one of those people that the hair naturally falls or something like that, like just like I'm ready.
Yeah, I actually am very, very fortunate. This is how I wake up in the morning. This is what my hair looks like. I didn't do anything to it.
Yeah, kids at home, this is not how I wake up in the morning, and this is a bad head. It's like, she's like, I'm a dude. It's like this. I wake up looking like Marge Simpson. I'm jealous.
Yeah, Pema says I have the Katmai routine. Which is, I just wake up looking fabulous.
Oh, don't get started the chat on the Katmai routine. Okay, carry on, Reiha.
Yep. Our next question is, do they change color as they age?
Great question. So like kind of like ferrets. Yeah, they do. So they tend to get lighter as they get older. Mackie's color has changed quite a bit. There is a younger picture of him. He looked a bit more like Fisher, like very, very dark when he was younger. And then especially if you have some of the lighter varieties, like if you have a ferret that starts out gray and stuff like that, they're gonna probably go almost completely white by the end of their lives. So yeah, but they do tend to get lighter with age and not just on their little heads. But yeah, their fur definitely changes.
One of the questions from chat, I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. But how did your first ferret arrive? And I think the best way to ask the question is, how did you decide that you were going to have a ferret?
Yeah. I had always liked ferrets. I don't really know why. I mean, I've always liked all animals, but for whatever reason, I had like a couple friends who, or even just acquaintances that had them at any given time, and kind of just always liked them. I'm not really exactly sure why I was so drawn to them to start with, but then I moved to Vancouver, and I started working with sea otters, and then I was kind of sold because I was like, this is the closest that I can get to owning an otter. They're in the same family. It's basically the same thing. And so I got my first one, and that was Sean. And the way I did it is I actually I did a lot of research, although admittedly I now am a much better ferret owner than I was when I got my first one, but I guess that's just life, right? Just living and learning. But I ordered him essentially. So my local pet store didn't have any, but they had the option to like order them. So they like literally like mailed him to the pet store as a little baby. And I went there and I picked him up. I had brought like one of those like cutesy cat carriers, that's like fabric and like not a real thing, it's like people would, you would never actually probably carry an animal in that. And by the time I had got home, he had basically shredded the entire thing and escaped. And that was my first experience with a ferret.
What a way to be introduced.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's the story of how I got my first one. And you can like order them, or like sometimes pet stores will have them, or you can also rescue and stuff like that. There are some like local breeders that depending on your area, that are not like the Marshall's Farm, the giant mill for these guys. Yeah, adopt, don't shop in general is a great rule. It can be really tricky with ferrets because you don't really get to know their backstories. Like there's not really, typically you don't see these guys go into like shelters, so
yes.
You're kind of just adopting them from other people's houses, which is also tricky in and of itself. So it's definitely a very very different sort of game than dogs and cats, but in general, absolutely adopt, don't shop. Mail order ferret, yeah.
Our next question, unless you have something on your side, JJ.
I have just one.
Okay.
Out of your own knowledge, are there any good books that you would recommend a new ferret owner, or well, maybe even just tips? Yeah, books and tips.
Yeah, I have a book. I have like Ferrets for Dummies. That whole like
Yes.
sort of so, and in general, it's a pretty good book. It's a pretty good like place to start. But I think with all books and really with everything, like things have to be taken with a grain of salt. And I'm not sure if they have maybe come out with a new addition to the book, but there's a lot of information in there that's not necessarily like that I would not really consider great information at this point in time. And so there's a lot of like gathering information for yourself. And luckily in this day and age, like the internet exists. And again, you shouldn't believe everything that you read on the internet, but you can in general find some good good sources of information on there. And I think too, if you're finding you're reading the same thing in multiple different areas, then it's probably in general some good information, rather than just like the outlier of information here and there. And things are always changing with with diets and stuff like that, and what we do with these guys and what is better for them. But something to do a lot of research on is like all of the different types of diseases that these guys can get. They are very prone to different types of cancers and stuff like that. So it's very important to be always vigilant and looking out for those things so you can catch them sooner rather than later.
Okay. Well, there we go. So basically, just equip yourself with as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's just life. That's just true.
Sure.
This is like, welcome to my TED Talk about life and,
using ferrets.
Yeah, life and raising ferrets. I should write a book.
Ray, you got a question on your side?
Yeah, our question on this side is, what is the average litter size for ferrets?
Oh, good question. I don't know. Again, I've never had like ferrets. I've never like bred ferrets or anything like that. I would imagine probably somewhere around like the 4 to 6 range, but maybe it's a lot more than that. The Google knows.
The Google.
Reiha got it.
Oh, they can have an average of 8.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lot of danger noodles.
That is many.
Yeah, danger noodles.
many cat snakes. Many cat snakes.
Yeah. A lot of slinky rats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my Buddy and Fisher are we were told they're brothers. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh. Now
and even if they weren't, they now are anyway. So.
Yes. I might have to go reevaluate something I created early on.
Oh. Sorry. And that reminds me, I forgot that I was supposed to get you pictures.
Yes. Oh gosh. I suddenly I didn't forget, but I did forget. So that's a very strange scenario there. We got a question here. Okay, so it's a bit of a two-parter. Do you give your ferrets an egg once a week or so? I almost said otters. The notice says this helps with the ferret equivalent of a fur ball. And what is the difference between a cat fur ball and a ferret fur stuck in a throat?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this question obviously comes from a ferret owner.
Yes.
It's a very knowledgeable question. So yes, we do give our ferrets eggs probably actually closer to 3 times a week. I would say, and they kind of just share one usually, so it's not like each one gets an egg 3 times a week. But I definitely am a big fan of this. This helps prevent hairballs, and so when cats get hairballs, they very easily vomit them back up, and it's not that big of a problem for them. Ferrets, however, have like a reduced ability to vomit. They are not really very capable of vomiting. They can, but it is very, very rare. So it's not easy for them to bring up a fur ball. And so they can get something, they can basically have that fur ball like very compacted in their stomachs. And I think it's called a bezoar, something like that. And that causes some serious problems for them because they then can't eat. They still can't throw it up. So what you can do is preventative. Essentially, you want to avoid having that situation happen. So by giving them, it's specifically an enzyme in the egg yolk that helps to dissolve hair.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can give them the whole egg. You can give them the white as well, but you don't want to only give them the white. So you can give them only the yolk or the whole thing, but never only the white of the egg, because it can also cause some other problems. But yeah, so having that egg helps to dissolve any hair that they would have ingested just from grooming and stuff like that. And then also just by the properties of eggs, it also helps to like just move things through their system, because they'll get afterwards. Usually for the rest of the day, they have what we call eggy poops. So their poops are just completely different than normal, and but then you know that like stuff's moving through and everything's going well. Yes, raw. Sorry, I didn't specify. BC Loves Joey's asking me. Yeah, we give them raw eggs. I'll usually put it in a bowl and scramble it up for them so that it's all mixed together. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of water in it too if the ferrets are not super keen on the texture. It does take a while to get them to like this. And then I've also, like in the very beginning, I've squirted some salmon oil or one of their favorite treats into the egg just to kind of get them.
Oh wow!
Get them eating it, because it's definitely they imprint on food. So if you haven't started early on, it can be a little bit tricky to get them to eat these types of things. But it is possible. But yeah, eggs. I am a big proponent of raw eggs for these guys.
And yeah, you were correct. It was bezoar or something like that.
Yeah,
and according,
I think bezoars.
So bez with a raw. And they even mentioned that apparently that used to be used as an antidote for various ailments that little stone or whatever formed in the past.
Yeah, it was used in a lot of like holistic weird stuff that was, probably not real.
Weird,
yeah. Yeah, like definitely. not a real solution to anything. Do not eat fur balls. But yeah.
Yes, please. Hopefully we have a community that knows this.
Yeah, please do not eat hairballs. Thank you. Yeah.
And continue. Ray, a question on your side?
Yeah, our next question was actually, what is the gestation period?
Oh gosh. Ferrets? Good question. Again, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe let's see. Let's take a wild guess and see. We'll see how close I am. I'm gonna say like 8 weeks. How close am I?
42 days.
42 days. Okay, so I overshot that. So.
Oh wow.
So yeah, only like 5 weeks. Wow.
That is according to the Googles.
All right. Well, the Google knows best.
Yes, the Googles. It's just a month.
We had a question, and I probably should have looked at this a lot better, but it's like, do you clip them like dogs or leave them? And I have no idea what that's referring to.
Nails.
I'm assuming nails.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this last time, but yes, I mean, in general, I think that spaying and neutering a pet is very, very important, when done the right way. And these guys are usually sold, spayed or neutered already, but if at all possible, I would wait until the animal is, like, essentially fully grown. So you make sure that they've, had the opportunity to grow and develop. And then that helps to avoid things like adrenal disease, which these guys are very prone to getting. It's essentially a hormonal disorder. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think that everybody should. I'm a huge spay and neuter proponent, so that we can help control the population, so that people, the dogs and cats especially, it's huge overpopulation of those animals, and it causes a lot of problems for people, for the world, for the animals. So, and the animals tend to be healthier and live longer when they have been spayed or neutered.
Yeah, you can ask the next question. We haven't seen anything here so far.
Okay. Our next question is, how smart are they? Like dolphin smart or fake smart?
Fake smart.
This is a very deep. This is a much deeper question, and you're gonna get a much longer answer than just answering the question. So, like people really love to think that dolphins are like super duper smart, and I think that that's just because we relate to them a little bit because they are very social animals. But intelligence is so hard to measure, and there isn't an animal that's smarter than other animals. There's just animals that are built for certain tasks, right? So like even humans, like I'm not prepared to say that humans are the smartest animal in the world. We're just built for, certain tasks.
Yes.
And everybody's perfectly well adapted for what they need to do. But in general, I think when we talk about intelligence, we actually associate it more with like sociability. Like I don't actually think that what we're usually thinking of is actually intelligence in the truest form of the word, like because what we're really looking at is how social they are, and we make connections with that with the intelligence of an animal. But ferrets are very smart. It is very possible to train. It's possible to train anything, but ferrets are can learn an awful lot. In fact, I think just a couple of days ago on my stream, we were watching a 5-month-old ferret, and he was like super well trained. I gave me like a bunch of good ideas. He played like a little piano. JJ, you would have loved it.
Yes.
So yeah, you can. They are very capable of learning. They are sometimes, I think, too smart for their own good. They're always up to trouble, getting into things that they shouldn't be, and and learning every step of the way. So yeah, they are very smart. But I don't like to compare different species because they're just different. They're completely different than dolphins. There's no comparing dolphins and and ferrets or dogs and humans. I mean, like it's and everything's individual based too. Like Buddy, my ferret, is very, very smart. His brother Fisher, not so much. So there's and I've met not smart dolphins too. So that is something that can happen, and I have a lot of friends that are maybe not like super high ranking on the intelligence.
I think that's throughout the animal kingdom. You're gonna get your smart ones and the not so smart ones.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's all relative, but you can absolutely train them to do any number of things. They're super engaging pets and really interesting animals.
But there you go. There's answer. It's not that they're more intelligent. They're just different, more intelligent in different ways.
Different.
Although, as you said, that any animal that I can watch playing the piano, that must be amazing. I'm like.
Yeah, you would have loved it. Maybe I'll just send you the video on later today.
It's like, yeah, please. I need to see that. Anyone got questions on chat? We got quite a lot of ferret followers that have been spraying us with information. So I hope this has been very informative so far. But Ray, you can move on to your question until we get one on this side.
Maybe she
it's talking about you. I am here. I did not step away. Actually, no. It's because we answered a portion of this question earlier, so I was trying to find the spot in it. It's talking about, since they are derived from European polecats, why is their approximate lifespan shorter than in our country? I'm assuming from Europe to the US. And has anyone ever thought about crossbreeding them with local polecats to enrich the heritage of the species?
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
This question is definitely above my pay grade and knowledge as a ferret owner. But so are you saying that, I assume, like, according to the Google, European polecats live not as long as domesticated ferrets? Or
I'm assuming that's what's in this question.
Yeah, because I would assume that's the whole wild
I
thing.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I would I would probably venture to guess that that is just a product of the domestication process.
Okay. European polecats, it says that they live up to 14 years in captivity.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh. Okay.
That's
So
long.
double.
Yeah. So maybe like the domesticated ferrets. So the reason that domesticated ferrets do not have very long lifespans is because they were originally breeding them like essentially for like, well, a variety of things. They started actually as being sort of research animals. So when that happens, it's you just want like quantity, and they're not really paying attention to they don't really
longevity.
care about inbreeding and stuff like that. They just allow those things to happen. So you end up with very unhealthy animals, and so that's kind of what the industry is recovering from right now. They are, and I think that ferrets are now living longer than they did even, 10, 15 years ago. And that's not just because we're learning more about them, but also because, like the breeders are now breeding for animals to live longer lives. So, and be healthier in general. So that's kind of nice. I think that, there's some attitude changes in that way. But yeah, I mean, like European polecats are going to be very, very healthy animals, very stout animals, because again, you're not having like the breeding for the domestication process. Those guys are essentially pretty much just wild animals. They are kept as pets, but it's in a much different capacity. Like they're more like working pets, like kind of like like your barn cats or stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a breeding issue, and when animals are left to do natural breeding, they tend to have, there's things in place that keep them from inbreeding with each other, or typically, but it can still happen. But yeah, so I imagine that's why. Although I hope that all of my ferrets live to be 14 years old. That'd be fabulous.
That's a long time for a polecat and a slinky animal to live. Gosh.
Yeah.
Got a
That's
question.
surprisingly long.
Yeah, 14 years. Normally it's associated with size and things like that. I always thought. I'm like, apparently I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think even like, I'd be interested to see what like a wolf's life expectancy is, but I bet it's close to like 20, like for the older ones. And a lot of times when people say like that they can live to be 14 years old, that's kind of like when people say that killer whales can live to be like over 100 years old. Well, like one time that happened with like one killer whale, so that's not really a good basis, like. And I think that there are some humans have lived to be 115 or whatever. Well, that doesn't mean that you're going to live to be 115 years old. So, so that could just be an outlier. I think sometimes people like are not using average appropriately. They're just
measuring the oldest one they found and like, oh, this is the maximum age they could live to.
Yeah.
This maximum age.
This is saying the average wolf lifespan in the wild is 14 years.
Yeah, that's what Double just said in chat. So no, that's very interesting.
Wow, and a polecat can live at the same age.
Yeah. And that may or may not be the average.
Yeah, maybe it was fluke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a question here. Hold on, I have to rephrase this. Have you had any ferrets with Wardenberg? And if so, did you notice they were not as smart as the others?
So I don't think so. So Wardenberg syndrome is like, it's kind of it comes from inbreeding, but it's essentially like, it's characterized by a certain like sort of facial type. I don't want to say like deformity. It's just like the ferrets, their faces tend to look just a little bit different when they have Wardenberg syndrome. So I do not actually think I've ever owned one with it. So I can't really speak to their intelligence, but it also those animals tend to be deaf. So I feel like that's more of the. I feel like people I don't know that they're necessarily less intelligent. Maybe they are. Again, I don't have personal experience with owning one, but it's probably more of the deaf situation. Being deaf obviously changes things. So I think that that's probably more of what that is, just based on like loosely what I've seen and like the research that I've done. But no, I don't think I've ever owned one that was in the ferret community we call it a wartie.
Okay, I didn't know that ferrets got that. I thought that was a human thing. Okay, we learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have another question here, but let's get to Ray's question first, and then we can bounce back.
Okay. This question is asking if there are smaller breeders in North America.
Yeah, there are. I don't know exactly where. There's also like smaller but still large breeders. Like real Canadian ferrets is another example that probably do a little bit better. It's interesting. Like Marshall ferrets tend to be characterized by being very sociable, not not biting, like just a little bit more like domesticated. Whereas when you get some of those other ferrets that are probably much healthier from a different from either a private breeder or from a smaller breeder, I've never owned one, but everything that I've read is they tend to be a little bit more wild. So that's kind of like what the difference that you're gonna find there. There are private breeders. You can get intact ferrets, and there are also some places in Europe that will actually like breed ferrets, and they will ship overseas.
Oh wow!
I imagine that's like very, very expensive, but
yes.
They even have like Angora ferrets that have like extremely long hair. Like they're pretty cute, but I can't imagine what it would be like to have like that much hair in your house. But yeah, so there are, you can do your research and get an actual ferret from a reputable breeder, and that might be a really good option for you. But yeah, it's something it's much trickier than like a dog or things like that. And like I said too, like it's even trickier to adopt them because typically you're not finding them very often in like shelters and stuff like that.
We have a question here. What is the difference between minks and a ferret?
Between a mink?
Yes.
Minks are there's a few differences. They are in the same family, but minks are much larger, and they are also like sort of semi-aquatic. Like they're almost like an in-between between like a polecat and a river otter. Like it's
yes.
So you will see them spending a lot of time in the water, like fishing and stuff like that. Whereas ferrets are going to be mostly like a dry land, underground sort of creature. But yeah, they are in the same family and they are very similar. And in some places you can actually own minks. I actually have a member of my community, Monster the Mink, who's owned minks before. So
that's basically if you actually really do want an otter at the size of a ferret.
Yeah, that's gonna be, yeah, but trust me, you don't actually want an otter. I know you think you do, but you don't.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Would you
you're gonna have to take my word for it.
They look cute, but no.
Yeah.
The fact that you mentioned that their habitats are specially reinforced to be otter-proof, folks, this is a habitat. Imagine trying to otter-proof your home. Mm-mm.
You can't.
It won't happen. I'm sure that's everyone wanting. They want ferrets now because it's an otter. It's basically close to an otter.
It's a land otter.
Yes, a lot more calm. Yeah, Ray, you were saying something there?
I know, I was saying that, like, I did see a documentary once about minks being used to, like, hunt or remove rodents and things from places.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it was really interesting.
So just tapping into
Yeah.
their natural instincts.
Yeah.
Go eat.
Yeah, super interesting. I think too, maybe somebody in chat knows about this, but there was an instance where they used a ferret to like do something super cool. It was like at NASA or something like that. Does
Oh
anybody remember?
wow.
Yeah.
I thought we were
It
going
was
to talk
like
about George.
it was something like they needed something to like run through like this tiny little like tube, and they like employed the use of a ferret. Doubles looking it up. NASA ferret. Yeah.
Did this
He'll get
did this ferret go into
real-
space, or was it tested to go into space?
No, it stayed on planet Earth, but it was just like using him for like some equipment they needed him like to do.
It's so weird. We can build little drones in that, and we're using ferrets to run down holes.
Yeah, to go through small tubes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeing
Yeah.
that in space, go. Kick, kick. It's like so weird. Out of all the things.
We have one more question here.
Yeah.
And
Nice. We're gonna be almost on time.
Yes, and then we just have 3 more questions on my side, so we will almost be on time. So questions
I mean,
over.
let's not jinx ourselves.
Yes.
We
Okay,
had
sorry,
no
sorry.
issues today, which was
Well,
amazing.
kind of, except for that I wasn't prepared at all. But you know,
It's fine. Made a good recovery. It's totally fine.
Our last question on our end is, what was the bonding process like between Fisher, Buddy, and Mackie?
yeah. So I had trouble with them, which is funny because I have never really had too much trouble before. So Mac essentially from the get-go decided that they were imposters and needed to be put in their place. So he did a lot of biting and shaking and dragging them. And in general, with these guys, you do want to, like, the rule for ferret owners: if there's no poop or pee, let it be. So when they're really distressed, no blood, poop, or pee, you like let it be. So when they're really distressed, they will actually like poop on themselves. So that's when you know that you need to kind of like step in and separate things. But for the most part, you do actually have to let them kind of, figure out their own hierarchy. Yeah, and like they know better, and they need to they need to sort out their social issues, and you can actually do a lot more damage by getting involved. It's kind of the same when we're doing intros with the otters. Sometimes it looks a little rough.
Yes.
But it's they're very strong animals. Like, they have very thick skins.
Yes.
And things that would be really bad for us are not necessarily bad for them. So we have to just kind of let them be otters, or let them be ferrets in this case, and sort their things out. But Mac was actually biting them to the point where they would be pooping on themselves and like totally freaking out. And so we did have to do some separations. And even now, Mac, we allow Mac to sleep outside of the cage. We're kind of like slowly integrating him back into where he will sleep in the cage, but some of that's a little bit just because I like having him around. And he's such a good boy. But the other two are not trustworthy. They have to go into a cage in the night, in the nighttime. But Mackie doesn't. But yeah, we like last night he spent the night in the cage. So it's just like I wouldn't probably leave them in a. And even this morning, Mac was feisty. I know you guys didn't really get to see him on stream very much, but he was running around and kicking their butts, but not in a dangerous way. But yeah, it just takes some time, and and Mac settled down, and the boys got bigger and weren't as easy to have their butts kicked by him anymore, and so like the social. But Mac is still very much in charge, and it's because he established that very early. But yeah, so that was kind of my personal process, and definitely the most difficult social integration that I've done for these guys.
And would you safe to say that if there was a herd, that Mac would be the alpha or the leader?
I think so, unless, like, I mean, it was hard because we introduced Buddy and Fisher were were small when they met Mac. They were probably 10 weeks old or something like that. So they were quite a bit smaller. So it was very easy for Mac to be in charge. So it might be different if he was introduced to like a larger ferret, but yeah, he's definitely used to being the main man, to being in charge.
That was for personal research.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, I figured. I was like, this is for the test talks.
Okay, so revealing too much. Let's get to these questions. So we have just a couple more. Then yeah, we actually made good time. Have you ever thought of breeding ferrets?
No. I don't think there's a real need for it, and there are plenty that need homes. And as much as I think that would be cute, like the problem with me is that if I bred ferrets and they have an average of 8 in a litter, well then guess what? I have 8 more ferrets because I wouldn't
so you'd probably
any of them. So no, it's not something that in general I don't think like breeding ferrets is a super great idea. But also I would just end up keeping them all, so it's dangerous.
Okay, so there you go. The next one is: do ferrets get on with the dogs or with dogs?
Some of them do. So we haven't owned a dog while owning ferrets, but you've seen in some of my videos, my parents had a dog. So it depends on the dog and it depends on the ferret, but I've especially like if they're raised together. I see just the cutest pictures of like German shepherds just like snuggling with their ferret best friend. They even can get along with cats. So yeah, I mean, I think it's something that you definitely want to like watch out for, because even if a dog the size of a German Shepherd just wants to play with a ferret, he can obviously hurt accidentally. So it's something to be very cautious about, but it's totally possible for ferrets to get along with dogs and dogs to get along with ferrets. But yeah, it is I think it's just kind of a case by case. Some dogs are just like have a predatory instinct, or some of them don't even like ferrets smell different. They don't smell like a squirrel. They don't they smell like a predator. They're a meat eater. So so some dogs don't react well to that. So it's just case by case, but I've absolutely seen awesome success stories with people and their other pets and ferrets.
Yeah, I think the earlier you train your dog or acclimate them to other animals,
like Ikaika would probably love the ferrets and be the greatest.
Probably. He would be like, oh my god, you were babies, come to me.
Looked like that video with the little guinea pigs. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, that was so cute.
Like, squeeing. It was like, no one should come by my house when I'm watching animals. They'll think like, sorry, we heard a little girl screaming. I'm like, just me here.
Yeah,
it's just me here. It's like, are you sure? Because it sounds like you have a little girl in there. No.
Nope, it's me.
Me. Okay, so this one is a bit of a two-parter, but of the same subject. Is what do you do to take care of a ferret's dental hygiene, and how can you tell their age by the translucence of their teeth? Is that a thing?
It is a thing, yeah. So it's not an exact science, but in general, the quality of their teeth can tell you about the age of their animal and the wear and tear on their teeth as well. So it's not an exact science, and honestly, it would be very hard for me to kind of describe this, but essentially, when we adopted and rescued one of our female ferrets, they told us she was 2 years old, and like pretty quickly, I looked at her teeth and went, "No way! There's no way this animal is only 2 years old." And so you can kind of just like, there's some teeth on a street right now. So you can kind of see that they do start to get a little bit translucent out at the edges, but in general, like nice opaque teeth. And so, but yeah, if you've got older teeth, they are going to tend to be more worn down, and also a little bit more translucent. And it's honestly, it's such an inexact science. It's kind of like telling a sea otter's age by looking at its fur. You can't say 100%. That this animal is. You kind of just get a feel for how old that animal is, and a vet should be able to give you a pretty good idea. As far as taking care of their teeth, my ferrets eat kibble, and this is it's both good and bad for their teeth. It's good in that because it is like crunchy and abrasive, it does help to kind of scrape off some of the tartar on their teeth. But at the age that Mackie is right now, for instance, when we go to our vet, she usually says we should probably do something you can, brush if he'll let you, like give a little bit of a brush to their teeth and to help keep things really nice and healthy. It's a little bit different if you feed raw food or freeze-dried raw. You kind of want to give them something. That's why like having bones or something to chew on is important, because it does help to get rid of some of the plaque and extra buildup that they can have on their teeth. So yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question. I can't give you like if they have this much translucency on their teeth, then they are typically this age, but it is, you can just kind of, have a comparison. So like, for instance, here's Mackie, who's a little bit older, and you can actually see, you can kind of see through this tooth right here.
Yes, I immediately saw it.
Right?
Yes.
So and in this picture, he's probably, I don't know, 4 years old. So that's just something you can, in general, like kind of
Wow.
look for when you're telling the age apart. But look at how shiny and white they are. They look so good.
Well, that's why the question was brought up, because the teeth look so good.
Yeah, good question.
Oh, wow. So that is pretty much all the questions that have come through. I'm just checking I haven't missed anything, because then I'll get hate mail. Or don't at me. Don't at me.
I don't think you're gonna get hate.
Oh, no. This was more a statement. Oh, I get tagged on Discord afterwards. So you didn't ask my question. That joke. It's just a joke. I know it's just a joke, everyone. Let's see here. Oh, no. Okay. I need to do research. I have read that they used ferrets to lay the cable for Princess Diana's wedding. That does sound like a very royal, over-embellishing thing to do.
I don't know anything about that, but that's interesting.
Ferrets lay down the cables. Ferrets. It's like,
That's funny. No, I don't know anything about that.
I'm gonna do research afterwards. Something to Google when you're streaming later. After this, just okay.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna definitely check out this ferret on the particle accelerator. That's what Double Agent found was what I was thinking of.
The particle, what? Oh, for the recent thing, because that was a big news thing, the particle accelerator, and they used the ferrets.
Yeah, to like, I will read it in a second.
Probably to lay down cables.
Probably.
That'll be so funny if that's the case. Like, run through ferret. If you explode, sorry, because it's a particle accelerator. Oh my gosh. Oh
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's our questions for this week. Reiha, can you remind us what is going to be our topic next week? That was your KP had a very good idea.
Yeah, so we came up with this idea for next week's AMA, just to give us a slight break. But next week's topic is going to be debunking your pet. And we thought it was a pretty cool idea. So
Yes.
I have in the AMA command, if you go to that link, you can submit a short little explanation of something that your pet does, and KP will try to debunk your pet's behavior.
Yeah, we'll see what's up. So it's a little bit more of a behavioral kind of a thing, and I am not like, I'm not going to guarantee that I can help fix your problems or anything like that, but we can talk about it and see if we can come up with something together.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to share that link on my side as well, so you guys can put in the questions for KP next week, so we get as much questions as possible. Actually, wow, we just had one last question come in here. Rebecca, you're joining us as we're about to leave, but this is like, do they fight a lot, or were they just roughhousing? I think they're being otterish.
Typically they're just playing and roughhousing, and it's not something that you really have to worry about too often. But yeah, some warning signs for something that you have to worry about is blood, poop, or pee. That's our general rule. If you're getting any of those things, you might have a little bit more of a problem. Yeah.
No, thank you very much. Okay, so you're going to be streaming after this?
Yeah, I'm going to stream for a little bit longer. I think we'll do some Googling and maybe some video analysis. And I was thinking about maybe playing some Planet Zoo too. So we'll just see where things take us.
So I'm going to post the link here. And from my side, thank you for joining. Some of you have been new here. Some of you are actually promoting all of our channels. I really appreciate that. Weinstein's mom, thank you so much. And Tessa for helping moderate. And as always, we've got people to do. Catch us here same time next week. Click on the link, go visit KP's side, answer those questions. I'm sure Reiha's going to post it on both Discords. Debunk your pets. I'm gonna put my story.